Hey Angels, thanks so much for joining us on Thursday night it is, but it's also going to be a recording for Fine Wine Club members who will watch this later on. So thank you so much for joining the Naked Wines Fine Wine Club in Australia. And this is our first 6-pack that we are releasing in the Fine Wine Club. And it is something we will do quarterly and give you a chance to see some of the very best wines that our naked winemakers make, and also hopefully take you on a bit of a wine journey and show you some wines that we normally would not sell at Naked Wines, probably because the quantity is so limited. So we'll see some really age release wines, see some really small batch wines, and also some very premium wines that are not made in big quantities, so we can offer them to the general Naked Angels. So I'm joined tonight by Emily.
Hey Angels.
So Emily's in my team, and we are also lucky enough to have 2 of the winemakers that have wine in this first 6-pack join us. So we got Sorby Adams.
Howdy everyone.
And Randall Tomich.
And my son Jack.
And Jack.
How's it going?
There we go.
Hey Jack.
Hi Jack.
Howdy.
Excellent. All right, so just a brief recap on the Fine Wine Club. So every quarter we'll release a 6-pack of wine. The price is going to be a little bit variable, but no more than $250 for the 6. So it will hover between that 200 and 250, we estimate. So also with this pack, as I said, you'll get some amazing wines, but you'd also get some more in-depth tasting notes than we normally provide. And we will also provide this virtual tasting, as well as the ability to watch it later on and record it. But most importantly, you'll see some amazing wine from your favorite winemakers. Also in this pack, as I said, the quantities that we are able to source of some of these amazing wines are quite small. So that's going to limit how many we can actually release. So in this first one, I think we had about 500, but it's going to be a little bit determined on, the quantity of wine that we can source for this pack. So some of these wines will be completely exclusive to the Fine Wine Club, and you're not going to be able to buy them elsewhere. Hopefully, we have enough so at least the Fine Wine Club members can pick up 1 or 2 bottles of their favorite wines from the pack, or more packs if they like. So I'm really keen to get into hearing from Sorby and Randall and Jack. But before we do that, I will spend a little bit of time on the 4 other wines in the pack from 4 of our other naked winemakers. And Emily, do you have something for the angels that are watching?
Yes, anyone that is at home and live with us now, we really want this to be an interactive experience. So please don't be shy. Feel free to ask any and all questions. No question is a silly one. I might even ask a couple myself. So please interact and enjoy. Back to you, Johan.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm not going to waffle on and on about every single wine, but I will spend a little bit of time on each wine because they are really beautiful. So see if I can get a picture here of what we're having tonight. So probably in tasting order, we got Sorby's beautiful 2008 Eden Valley Riesling, but I'm not going to talk to that one, but I will talk to the Collector Chardonnay from Coby Ladwig, and Rabbit and Spaghetti Single Vineyard Grenache from McLaren Vale, beautiful barrel select heated Shiraz from Sam Plunkett, and from Glen Eberbach we got a 2013 Trifon Estate Cabernet. So I will start with the Collector Chardonnay. So I don't know if you've had Coby's other wines. So they are Lover's Grave and Lover's Mark. Collector is another brand that Coby has in Great Southern. So Australia's largest wine region, this is from the sub-region of Great Southern called Mount Barker. Beautiful, beautiful Riesling, Chardonnay, and occasionally Pinot. But I think this Chardonnay is just stunning. So think, well, you can read the tasting notes online, so I'm just going to give you my take on it. So think Mount River, but in a cooler climate. So you got that really beautiful peach, brioche, classic Chardonnay from Western Australia, but with higher acidity and probably more minerality and fruit purity. So it's really is an aging Chardonnay. So this is 2021. If you can stop yourself from drinking it, I really would, at least for a couple of years, hopefully more. But it is a wine that deserves to be aged. The collector Chardonnay from Rosenthal Wines, which is Coby's winery. I think it's $90 at cellar door. It's a pretty special wine. The very best oak, hand-selected fruit, and it's a pristine, beautiful Chardonnay from Mount Barker. So I will then...
Before we go on to the next one, Johan, we've already got a fan in the room. We've already got an angel asking, how does Sorby keep his handsome looks? Is the secret wine, Sorby?
Riesling.
Riesling, there we go. All right.
I want the address of that person too.
Listen, so Sorby ages as well as his Riesling. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's very flattering.
All right. So then in the
was that Randall who wrote that?
Yeah, it must have been. Love it. I'm going to move on quickly. So we're skipping the reserve Pinot from Tomich, so we're going to come back to that one. Next one I would taste in tasting order is the Rabbit and Spaghetti Single Vineyard Grenache. So really small make, 3,000 bottles made from 100-year-old vines in Blewett Springs in McLaren Vale. It really blew us away, this wine, when we tasted it. Grenache, straight Grenache can be incredibly different in this country. You know, anything from really old school, quite heavily oaked Grenache to these days, literally unoaked fruit, dubiness, just fun wines. This sits somewhere in between because of the vine age, and it's just got this beautiful complexity to it. There's so much going on. You can just sit and sniff and smell this wine for ages, and it's still really young as well. It's 21. So you're going to be able to keep this wine for quite some time. So I think we are really lucky that we have these old vines in both Barossa and, you know, McLaren Vale, originally planted for port or fortified production. And now we get to enjoy, you know, the beautiful, beautiful fruit that these old vines produce. And I think this is a lovely example of a straight Grenache, or not lovely, it's a smashing example of a straight Grenache. So normally you see it blended with Grenache, Shiraz Mourvedre, or blended with Shiraz in different forms. I think in this sort of pure form, beautiful, beautiful fruit from very old vines, you know, the very best oak treatment, etc., but not too much. It really lets that beautiful fruit shine. So Adam Barton's done a great job with this. Super, super happy to have this in the pack. Next one up is was an Angel favorite, Sam Plunkett, Tait Hamilton Vineyard. It's been, you know, one of our best-selling Shirazes for a number of years. This is Sam's special number. This is his Barrel Select 2020 Heathcote Shiraz. So this is from the Tait Hamilton Vineyard in Heathcote. Heathcote in Victoria is all about Shiraz, really. It is a remarkable place for growing, cool climate, but also really quite full-bodied Shiraz. It's you know, super cool nights, gets freezing there in winter, but it also can get really hot in summer. So this is a really cool one from Sam. Barrel Select. So if you are fans of the normal Tait Hamilton, this is the sort of ultra luxe version of that. 2020, big though, it's a big Shiraz. But if you do like full body Shiraz, that's the one for you. And the last one I'm going to touch on is from Trifon Estate. So you wouldn't have seen Trifon Estate before. Trifon Estate is the single vineyard where Stratford Vineyard produces their wine. So Stratford Vineyard and Trifon Vineyard is the same. It's two different brands from Glen, Eberbach. So relatively new naked winemaker, only joined us last year, but they got some beautiful, beautiful aged wines from Golden Valley. So remarkable, really. So this is 9 years old now, 2013. It looks so fresh. It's got some beautiful, beautiful aged notes, which you would expect. So that blackcurrant and classic Cabernet flavors are complemented by some deeper, almost tobacco, leather, and spice characters. And it really changes if you keep it open for a while too. So enjoy this over a couple of days and see how it changes. I think that goes for all the wines in this pack. If you can, open them up and don't have the whole thing at once. Leave it. You can easily leave it for a couple of days and see how the wine changes as you go along.
If you can help it, Angels. I mean, they're pretty tasty, but if you can
I
help
know, tricky.
Try and spread it out over a couple of days.
Anyway, so here we are. So that's our first Fine Wine Club 6-packs that we are super proud of, and it really showcases some of the best, I think, that our naked winemakers can make. And so happy that we can actually offer wines at this price point, and so many of you have signed up to this, which is awesome. So thank you very much. And without further ado, I think we need to go get stuck into one of the wines that we have the winemaker here on the call for. So I think we have to go with age before beauty, and we'll go with the Sorby Adams, obviously, Jellicoe 2008 here.
Are you talking about my age, or you're talking about my age or the wine age?
Wine age, of course.
Just what it was. Right. Thanks, Joanne. Okay, so that's the Jellicoe label is our normal commercial label that we first started back in 2004. And, I've been lucky enough to be working with Eden Valley Riesling since the mid-80s when I was making all of the Heggies Rieslings from Yalumba. And, you see a lot of different things over the years. And as you're walking up and down the vineyard rows each year, it's not just about the flavors that you're seeing in the vineyard. You've got to keep one eye on the weather map, and you've got to be mindful of other fruit that's coming into the winery as well. So I remember in 08, and I don't remember every vintage in this detail, but in 08, the weather map was telling us that we were in for a really long hot spell in mid-March. Now, this particular wine, I reckon, was about 3 or 4 days short of being ready in its optimal sense. It was just about there, but the acid just needed to drop a little bit, and it just needed a few more days of gentle ripening. As it turned out, after March the 15th, we had 15 days in a row above 35 degrees. Now, that's bloody hot. And if you're a Riesling grape, you don't want to be sitting out there for 15 days above 35. So on the 16th of March, so 1 day into this heat wave, I made a decision to pick. And, this wine as a young wine was quite held back, was restrained. But look at it now as a 14-year-old, and it's just starting to hit its straps. It's got this lovely deep golden colour to it. It's got the classic aged Eden Valley Riesling characters of, Bickford's lime juice, and a lovely quartz character. Now, the quartz character is really quite unique to Eden Valley. The Eden Valley profile is, big gum trees and rocky outcrops. Now, those outcrops are all quartz, and the pH of the soil is sometimes below 6. And normally, you know, a neutral soil pH can be closer to 7. But a lot of the Eden Valley vineyards, the soil pH is really low, and that accentuates that quartz character and the natural acidity. So often you pick Eden Valley Riesling by the acid level. So when the acid level comes down far enough, you can then start to work with it. And what you see at the end is just this lovely, quite sometimes bracing natural acidity. And that just gives it the longevity and the potential to age really well. So every year we hold back a little bit of Riesling for a museum release. We've got 06, 7 and 8 from that decade. And the 08's really quite approachable now. And it's still got, I think, another 8 or 10 years in front of it. You know, the middle palate is still really generous and it hasn't started to dry out yet. So that's just a sign that it's still going to go for a long, long time. You know, pair it with seafood. You could even do a seafood curry because the wine is really strong enough to cut through it. And, you know, like I said, it's still got a little bit of time left in front of it. This particular vineyard, the Jellicoe vineyard, the name Jellicoe, it's actually a section of the Barossa Council, and it was named after Lord Jellicoe, who was an English admiral in the First World War. It's a small area in what's called the Golden Triangle in Eden Valley. It's about 52 years old, the vineyard. The clone, I think, is what's called the Pusey Vale clone, obviously another famous brand out of Yolumba. Not much record keeping back in the 70s, obviously, when this vineyard was planted, but it looks and tastes very much to me like the Pusey Vale clone. And, you know, it's just special to be able to release an unoaked white. So Riesling and Hunter Semillon are the two classic Australian varieties that just age seamlessly for so long. And we're pretty pleased to be able to show it to you tonight.
And it's
sorry, you go, Emily. No, you go.
I was just saying it's a beautiful wine, Sorby, and I wonder, it's so special to be able to drink a Riesling that has so much age, and I'm wondering what you prefer. Do you prefer a young Riesling or do you prefer an aged one, and why?
Young Rieslings are great before they get to their first birthday, and then they just turn into mutants for the next 5 years. They don't show anything, I don't reckon. So you either drink them really young or you drink them when they're sort of 8 or 10 years old. They go through this really bad phase where they just dip and don't give you a lot. So either in the first 12 months or an old one like this. And I like them both. But probably, if I had a preference, I'd say I'll drink an older one because I'm not really a high acid person. I like a wine that's got a bit more texture and richness to it. So I'll put my hat in the older Riesling category.
All right, I think I'm almost with you on that one.
I think it's just so lovely just to sit there and smell it, right? It's just smells so beautiful. There's so much going on there. You're right. There's still that classic fruit lift, but it's also got this toastiness to it, and all these second degree and tertiary characters coming through as well. It's if you let that breathe for an hour or so, you'll see a whole different range of characters coming out of it. It's a wonderful thing that they just open up and you come back and look at it and go, oh shit, I didn't see that last time. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Hey, Saul, we've got a question from an angel. How this compares to an aged Peggy's Hill Eden Valley Riesling?
That vineyard is towards Cainton, so it's about 4 k's away. And look, they've all got their subtle differences. The altitude is very similar. You know, this one sits at about 460 meters. The Henschke vineyard would maybe be a little bit lower, I think. But, you know, I'd put the Peggy's Hill, the Pusey Vale and the Heggies all in pretty much the same category.
I've got a question off the back of that. How does this compare to Riesling that's made in Germany and grown in Germany? I mean, is it completely different, or are there similarities there?
Look, you know, the basics of the wine, obviously they're all Riesling. Typically, the German Rieslings are probably a couple of grams per litre sugar sweeter. This one's sitting at about 4 grams. You know, the driest of the German Rieslings, maybe around 5 or 6. So, you know, the great Eden Valley Rieslings, you take them really quite dry.
Okay.
And actually, some of the Heggies Rieslings I made years ago were about a gram per litre of acid higher and almost bone dry. So they were really tough as young wines.
Right. Okay. That's really interesting. Thank you.
And Sorby, how about those more developed characters? You know, are you seeing any kind of kerosene or any, you know, richer, more developed characters?
Yeah, kerosene's an interesting descriptor, isn't it? You know, when I first got into the industry, everyone said, oh, you know, look at that great old kerosene character. And I've tried to avoid that word like the plague ever since. It doesn't evoke anything. Doesn't evoke anything that's sensual to me.
Well, it's funny you mention, you know, because you know, we farmed in the Clare Valley for a while as well, and everyone brought this kerosene character up, but on our vineyard, I've actually got some of the Pusey Vale clone next to the old traditional Leasingham clone.
Yes.
And I don't see any real petroleum or kerosene in my Pusey Vale clone, but as soon as that Leasingham clone gets overripe, I see it in the fruit straight away.
Yeah,
have you got any experience with that?
I suppose because I've never, you know, I've always just grown up with Eden Valley Riesling. That's why I've never really seen that character. I think it gets a really cold toast. You know, when you cook some toast in the morning, then just let it sit. I think aged Rieslings pick up a lot of that type of character. But you're still getting these primary characters as well. So kerosene, no, but a lot of cold toast, yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting. It's, you know, working with the Pusey Vale fruit, you know, we found exactly the same thing.
Yeah, right.
And you know, produces a pretty fresh wine.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely delicious. All right, so I hope, Angels, that you appreciate us putting a you know, significantly aged Riesling in this first pack, but it is a real treat, and I think, like Sorby said, it's got some life, quite a bit of life left in it still, right? So I don't know how many of you are gonna keep on hanging on to this one though, but you know,
I'd be really interested to see the feedback, you know, because it's not something that people would taste every year. You know, so for it to get such a wide exposure now with all of the Angels, you know, through this club, but the feedback will be really interesting to see what people's reaction actually is to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, you know, we were a bit game going with such an aged white, but Sorby, like you said, it's, you know, Eden Valley Riesling, Hunter Semillon, just a bit of freaks like that in the Australian white wine world, right? They just keep going, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I was just thinking whether we should actually label them as unoaked. It's never been done.
Well, I don't know what you know. You obviously, no one really puts Semillon or Riesling, not in Australia anyway, in oak. What happens if you do? As a side note, I'm sure you played around with it.
Yeah, I've seen both Riesling and Barossa Semillon in oak in the 80s. Riesling doesn't respond to it at all well, but Barossa Semillon in old large oak picks up another character that looks actually okay, I reckon. But it doesn't age like the unoaked Semillons because it just picks up too many phenolics and it goes really quite broad.
And what happens with the Riesling when you put it in oak?
That has a fight with itself and it doesn't like itself.
Okay, cool. Sorry for indulging a bit there. I actually was quite curious to know. All right, we got any other questions online about the Riesling?
No, we're all good to go here. We're good to go on to the Pinot, I think.
All right, awesome. All right, Jack, Randall, what have you got for us?
Well, very warm welcome, everyone. Wonderful to be here tonight. We have our reserve Pinot Noir, the RT, which is a 2021 wine. Jack actually made the wine, so he's here along tonight as well to tell you all about it. But it's actually the first time I've tasted the wine since I left the winery, and I'm actually quietly impressed. It's actually very good.
Yeah.
And this wine harves back to, we sent off all our main batches, and the Naked team actually came down to visit, and we were wandering around the winery, and I think we had 12 barrels stuck in the corner, which was some of our A-grade wines, which we were leaving in oak and for another half a season or so, just in case we needed them. And yeah, the Naked crew spotted them, and we had a taste and sent you guys a sample of the mix. And yeah, the wines turned out really, really beautiful. Lovely, ethereal, rolls beautifully around the palate. Some lovely lifted notes. Yeah, we've got it's really in that sort of blueberry, sour cherry, so on the less ripe end of the spectrum. It rolls nicely on the palate. Quite a lovely wine, actually. And you know, the first time, whenever I look at wines, you know, the first thing in tasting is have a good deep look in the wine. And does the wine shine back at you? Is it brilliant? And that kind of tells you, has the fruit been looked after? Has it been well made? It should be nice and bright and shiny. And then you have a look at the meniscus, which is, you know, that little bit right at the edge. And that's why often in wine tasting they have a white piece of paper or a white table or something like that, just so you can see that meniscus and colour. You know, and if the colour doesn't run all the way to the edge, you know, it tells you a lot about how the fruit was treated, you know, how hard it was worked and how the wine was made. And yeah, this wine shines back into the glass. It's really brilliant, nice and fragrant, lovely clear meniscus, you know, and great legs. And the legs on the glass tells you about the complex sugars and the glycerols in the wine. And you know, something with good legs is going to be lovely and rich on the palate. So quite a lovely wine indeed, you know, and finished with a cork, of course, and even a Diane cork. So you know, a lot of the trouble we have with cork in Australia is, you know, we don't always get the best cork. You know, the best cork goes to France and Italy, and it kind of filters down. So you can tell when you get a wine with a Diane cork, which is like a really, really fine particle cork. It's what we call a technical cork, and you know, that really cares the winemaker. That really shows the winemaker cares, and you know, has chosen the right innovative new corks to protect the wine.
So on that, Randall. So what's the difference then between a DM cork and the corks that, you know, you used to have in Australia, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago?
Well, back in the early days, I guess there wasn't as much demand, and we had some better quality corks. But cork's always been a problem down in Australia, and that's the reason that they invented the stilbit or the screw cap back in 1973 to make Riesling up in Clare, actually. And Sorby, I'm sure, has got a story about that one. And then of course the bag and box as well. You know, it all kind of came from the poor cork. So the issue with cork is it's kind of accepted in the industry that 10% or up to 2 bottles per dozen or 12, you know, will be corked or will have sort of some sort of cork issue. And what I find actually often, you know, there's nothing worse than making a really, really fine wine, a sexy wine, putting all your energy into it, and then you get it back, you store it for a year, and you pull a cork, and there's some sort of cork issue. So I've been known before to be like a madman at midnight and open like 36, 40 bottles. just to really get a feel for what's going on with this cork business. And what you find is there's a few little corks like actually have a real taint, and it comes from a bacteria that actually lives in the cork and lives in the cork tree and runs all the way through. And that's where that wet hessian or wet socks or a bit of a mousy smell kind of comes about. And it just makes the wine thin and less palatable. But it's not actually that they're all corked, it's just around about half of them just aren't as good. So, you know, it's something we take really seriously, and a lot of our wines in Stelvin and throughout the Australian industry. Moving into a technical cork, you know, just really safeguards the wine. Yeah, because the last thing I want is 1 in 12 of those angels not to have a perfect RT wine.
Hey, Randall, we've got an angel asking if you use a different cork for wines that are aged 10 plus years. Is there any difference?
Yeah, so that's actually a fantastic question. You can actually get these corks or other corks with like a different amount of air ingress. So they've worked out how much air passes through the cork. So the more air that passes through the cork, the faster the wine will age. But if we're, you know, these corks are great, but you still can get a traditional original cork, which performs very well. Like this, actually test every single cork individually. You know, those corks are well above my pay grade. You know, perfect for Grange and stuff like that. Yeah, anything up to, that's what's called like a reference 1+, and anything, these are about the equivalent of a reference 2. But they're safeguarded, you know, the wine's always going to be strong and safe. But making wine.
I was just going to say, is there a particular way that we should be storing this wine if, for example, we were able to keep our hands off it for a little while? Should we be keeping it upright? Should we be laying it down?
It's less important with these corks, but particularly you should always store your wine laid down, just so the cork remains wet. And when the cork remains wet, it's just like wood, it swells up and it keeps the seal nice and tight. Always great to lie them down, but you know, still keeping them upright, there's some moisture. And if you're going to keep it for more than a couple of years, I definitely recommend to lay down. When we store our wine for long term in the winery, we actually turn all the boxes upside down, so the wine's sitting on the corks just in case.
All right.
And Randall and Jack, why did you choose to go with cork for this particular wine instead of Stelvin?
Well, the thing about the cork, we think it's a lot more sexy than the screw cap, to be honest. There's a bit more feature involved when you're opening the bottle, rather than, you know, you get in the screw cap, you know, that's not very sexy compared to getting out your bottle opener, you know, taking off the hood, and then, you know, it makes it a more high quality wine.
Yeah, it's a bit of a ceremony about it, but also those technical corks like this one, Randall, they breathe a little bit more than Stelvin, don't they? So they do let some oxygen into the wine as opposed to Stelvin seal.
And using a cork always softens the wine. So like, you know that's why Sorby with his aged Riesling, you know that Riesling in cork far less than would make it through, but under Stelvin it's like rock solid. So you know, if you've got a really, really tight wine that you want to bring to market soon, using a cork will soften the wine and will get the wine there a lot sooner. You know, if you've got a wine that you want to age for more than 10 years, these corks will age out to 50 years probably, but Stelvin's even tighter again, and the safest option by far.
The other interesting thing with cork technology now and DM, you actually get a structural guarantee with the cork as well. So if you use a DM5 or a DM10, or as Randall said, if you got deep pockets, a DM15, you know, there's nothing more disappointing when you open an old red and the cork just crumbles. So these days now, the technology with not just the DM corks but also some other brands is that they'll they'll guarantee 100% that there's no TCA infection that Randall was talking about previously, but they'll also guarantee that structurally that cork will come out as one solid piece in X number of years' time.
Amazing.
Cool.
We
talked,
guys. I'd just love to talk about Pinot Noir, and you know, I've got a real love of Pinot and a little bit of the history of Pinot. You know, Pinot's one of the original grape varieties. It goes back nearly 2,000 years. First recorded cultivation in 400 AD, and it was all cultivated by monks for religious reasons. You know, and in around the Burgundy area, down through there, and then it was, you know, went on to be part of, you know, the Knights Templar, and it has this phenomenal history running through, and it's always been called the holy grail of winemaking. You know, partly because it's difficult to grow as a vine, it takes twice as long to get up and grow and fill the wine. You know, as you grow the vine, it needs a lot of hand tending, a lot of fussing around just to get it set up right, and then it's very pedantic. You know, it doesn't crop evenly. It takes its time, and it suffers in those hard seasons. But you know, it's a wine which is really rewarding to make. You know, we use a lot of different techniques. We have a lot of different barrel treatment, and like at the end of the year, we'll have like 50 or 60 different sort of winemaking techniques. And it's our job, if you like. I like to think of wines like a curve on the palate. You know, they should lift up gently and crescendo over. And it's our job as winemakers to fill each little bit of the palate to make it beautifully balanced so it rolls. You know, we've got different techniques. Like this wine's a combination of 3 different clones. We use a champagne clone, which is nice and bright and really feminine, and strawberry, blueberry, and that kind of fills the front part of the palate. You know, then we use our 777 clone, which is one of the more newer traditional Burgundy clones, and that's got a lovely sort of backbone to it. So that kind of provides the backbone and the depth in the wine. You know, and then we use a little bit of our old traditional Penfolds clone, or the MV6, which we ripen up, and that's much stronger. It's almost like the Shiraz of Pinot Noir, and that's the bit that just fills the bit at the back. And you know, it's about having all those little bits and having the experience to know where each kind of bit fits into the puzzle. So Jack, would you like to talk about the winemaking? You know, what do we do here?
So essentially, with this wine, we have a lot of combination of techniques. So when it comes down to the vineyard, you know, every day we're up there, we're going through the vineyard, and vintage is just about to roll around, and we're tasting phenolic ripeness, we're tasting for fruit ripeness, and just taking the fruit and seeing kind of what we're going to see out of the wine. And then when it comes down to the winemaking processes, essentially we use this wine, so probably about 30% whole bunch in most of the batches that was in. We also use the combination of carbonic maceration to add the extra complexity to it. Basically, carbonic maceration is where you pick the fruit as a hand-picked fruit, so the whole bunches. You seal the container that it's in, and basically that fruit will start fermenting by itself. When it's in a cold stored area, we start fermenting, and essentially in every single little berry there's a fermentation. So when you have, you know, thousands and thousands of berries fermenting, just give this incredible layer of complexity you can add to a wine. So basically, when we use a combination of whole bunch, a combination of carbonic maceration, and then with the fruit that we get from Adelaide Hills, which is pristine fruit, we can really make a high quality wine, and which this wine is drinking fantastically. Heaps of fruit flavour, and that's what we love in Pinot Noir. Which, you know, Randall loves to make a delicious Pinot Noir, and I think we've known it with this one.
It's such a beautiful, delicate wine, and I was going to ask, you know, with Pinot being known as a bit of a princess grape, why you guys are drawn to it, but I think you answered the question just hearing you both speak about how much is involved in the winemaking process and what you choose to do and all the different things you do to make this beautiful wine. I think you've answered that question. So there's obviously a lot of passion behind this glass, and I think we can all taste it as well.
Well, having such a passionate father in the industry for so long has definitely put it onto my shoulders, which is a fantastic relationship we can have.
Nice job.
So Angel's my favourite toast, if you'll join me. So the king made Shiraz, God made Cabernet, but the devil made Pinot.
To the devil.
Hey, Jack, tell us about the oak that you've used in this wine.
So essentially, we've used a combination of we've got about 10% new oak, and then probably the rest of the batch is between 2 and 5 year old barrels. We only use French oak, medium toast, tight grain. So we don't like it. We don't like the oak expression to be too intense. We like it to keep the fruit as the main priority, essentially. So when we're looking at our oak selection, we don't want barrels that are going to oakify the hell out of the wine. We want a really soft, gentle aging barrel, and using those barrels, we've been able to keep the fruit really at the forefront of what we'll be trying to be doing, which is what we're trying to do.
And it's actually an interesting question, Sorby. You know, we've started to bring a lot of pungents in as well, and you know, Jack, you know, it's different working with pungents.
Oh yeah, my back hurts a lot more working with pungents.
So
that's why we've got our kids working for us.
So a pungent is a double barrel or 500 litre barrel, and we're seeing a lot easier, slower integration of oak, haven't we?
Yeah, and a few more physio appointments.
Awesome. No, I mean, to me, it's really, really, really impressive, this wine. And it's young still, right? It's 21. So, Randall and Jack, I know you don't like those questions, but when you know, if someone was to tuck this away, or they love it now and they go and buy some more, if we still have some available for Angels to buy, which I think we'll have a couple of 100 bottles at least left over, that hopefully the Fine Wine Club members can clean up. So when do you reckon it'll sort of, you know, it looks really good now, but when will it sort of peak?
So the biggest, to be honest, the biggest problem we have with our wines is we sell them too soon. I think it'll be peaking in 5 years. We've still got vintages going back to 2004, and the 2005 is really, really rocking still. But the wine will just get better, and you know, it's only just been bottled and it's showing phenomenal potential. I'm really impressed with this wine, to be honest.
Listen, Randall, I saw this wine. I think Emily and I saw it when it was just bottled, and even those, you know, 6 or 8 weeks now difference is quite remarkable. So,
yeah. So as they say, this is part of the family reserve. They're the wines the family saves for themselves. But anyway, awesome. And it was quite interesting, Angels. The other little thing is that I found a few different Pinot glasses here, and there's always a lot of talk about the Randall glasses and the glasses made in the shape of the wine. Yeah, it's quite phenomenal what the different flavors do, and you know, these are all a large kind of bulbous glass. And if you look at the different shapes of the glasses, it actually, you know, it kind of goes with the wine as well. You know, yeah, if you're looking for a Riesling glass, or we'll start with the champagne flute, it's very, very tight. So it keeps everything tight on the nose, keeps the acid tight as it rolls in your palate, keeps it all tight. Then we look at a Riesling glass, it's a little bit rounder, but almost like a tasting glass, but still, you know, nice and tight. keeps all the acid profile tight. Then we move out to Chardonnay. It's bulbous, wants to make the wine richer and fill the wine out. Then we move to Pinot, and it's bulbous, but it's restrained. So it's bringing it all up in the glass, but still keeping it nice and tight for you. And then we move to Cabernet. Cabernet's a nice round glass, very similar to Chardonnay. Bring out the flavour. And then Shiraz. Shiraz is large, but just tightens up. I truly, thoroughly recommend to all the angels out there to, go out and get yourself a set of Randall, or there's many different brands, tasting glasses, and it really will enhance the wine. And what you'll find is that when you're enjoying wine at home, you might look at a wine and go, oh, that's a bit sharp, isn't it? Well, if I put it in this great bulbous round glass, that's softening it off beautifully. All the other way around, we might be drinking a very old Chardonnay. The Chardonnay's big and round and fat. And then we stick it in a nice, tight Riesling glass, and, just sharpen it up that little bit for us. The world of wine, we do it because we love it. While I'm on this note, while Draco's here, it's quite a spiritual thing growing wine, Every year we come through winter, spring opens, we come out. We go through the growing, we come to the harvest or the vintage. It's like the crescendo. It's like all of our energy has been poured for 12 months into this 2-3 weeks. We're like madmen possessed. We harvest the wine, make the wine, and then the vines, the vines kind of, all the leaves fall off, and they hibernate and they go quiet, like a rose, very, very much the same as the rose. And then we have this quiet time, soul searching time. We take time, we look at the wine, we think about what we've done, we go out, we look at the vineyard, drive past that same block maybe 20 or 30 times, thinking about how I'm going to prune it this year, what I'm going to do that's different. I look at the weather and I just see, oh, gee, it's pretty wet this year. What I think is going to happen, is there going to be any frost? Is there going to be a dry summer? And then every year we have like this emotional and spiritual ability to start again and be refreshed. So, we have this another chance every year, Sorb. That's why it keeps us so young.
I think it's like having a new child every year. If you don't give it the attention it needs, it turns out to be an absolute little shit. But if you nurture it and do all the things that Randall was just saying, they actually turn out all right.
I guess that's why I turned out all right.
Unreal. Well, seriously, congrats to both of you, or the three of you, for the two wines. They really, really look great, and I think it's fantastic that we can showcase such a diversity in this pack. So, Angels, I think, and I really hope that you will appreciate it. But I think you'll love these 6 wines and how different they are to each other. And we have to put.
Let us
Emily,
know.
Yeah.
Review them. Go onto the website and let us know what you think, because both Randall, Jack, and Sorby, I'm sure, would love to know as well and hear your thoughts. So definitely jump on the website.
I'm actually looking forward to getting my 6-pack.
Woohoo! Is something held up? I'll have to chase it up.
Yeah, there's an issue somewhere.
I think you have to order it first, right?
Yeah.
I missed that order.
Fantastic.
No, like it really is wonderful being part of Naked Wines. Such a strong community, and you can see the great fun that we all have. They really are the gentlemen in the industry, and guys, support them. The wines you get are really are great. and phenomenal value, and you get to experience some phenomenal wines that really just don't hit the market.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
Sorby, mate, if you got any more of that 2008, let me know.
I do have a few left.
Oh, come on. I thought you said we were the only ones that were getting it.
I had to keep a couple back for Christmas.
Yeah, oh, fair enough. No, but I do think as well, and really, Angels, I hope that you know, we're taking you on a journey for the past 10 years with Naked Wines, and you know, whilst we have all our beautiful, you know, everyday drinking wines, a lot of them sitting between, you know, $10 and $20. You know, we really appreciate that you're supporting us in discovering some, you know, higher price points and some incredible wines that are still, you know, hand on heart, incredible value for what they are in this pack. If you were to buy these individually, you'd be looking at a completely different price point. So, yeah, thank you so much for your support.
Yep, thank you.
And thanks, Sorby, Jack,
Pleasure.
Randall, Emily.
Yes, thank you
joining us
all.
tonight.
We'll see you in a few weeks.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Look forward.
tasting tours here we come.
And
Sydney, Melbourne, and
remember, the devil made Pinot.
Devil.
All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Everyone for
Thanks,
joining.
Em.
Yeah.